He'll have a halo behind his head. Soch lo, Raj. he anyways feels there's a halo behind his head. अब तो तुमने उसको prove ही कर दिया.
अच्छा चलो शुरू करते हैं.
All the best.
All the best to you, Ma.
चलो. I don't know whether it is possible for me to all the time or most of the time see the world without also having the experiences of womanhood, being a woman. So it's not a genderless, colorless person I am.
I think that there's a constant energy of differential experiences, looking at the same thing from different perspectives, which is shaped by our life experiences as a man, as a woman, somebody who feels judged for not being good enough, somebody who probably feels that too much stress is being laid on physicality and attractiveness and beauty and aesthetics.
Him being a man, experiencing the world through the male lens, experiencing moments of femininity, moments of masculinity. Similarly in me, experiencing instances of where I have harnessed my masculine energy, being completely looking at something completely from a very, very feminine or a very women's experience point of view.
The context that we've taken is what is happening in organizations, corporate organizations, multinationals, Indian organizations, as well as we've looked at a couple of non-profits. And the wish is for organizations to look at the relationship between their diversity and inclusion policies and their sexual harassment policies. Yeah, because the two almost seem to be disconnected universally, right? So that's one, and we are hoping that the book will therefore encourage organizations, and we've explained in the book why you need to look at the relationship between the two and how you can do that, right? The second is we are hoping that the book will start conversations, and we've seen many of our client organizations already having taken the stories and starting chai pe charcha or conversations over coffee, yeah, saying that if this is a case study, where does it resonate with me? And those dialogues in itself become that where do you situate yourself? Are you situating yourself as a victim? Are you situating it yourself as a judge? What's your location of inquiry?
Even while writing this book, most of the respondents, I think almost all or most of the respondents, they refused to, they wanted to be anonymous. They wanted to maintain confidentiality. And, talking about sexuality and gender dynamics leading to transgressions, violations, I think it's something that people are still finding they really struggle to talk about it openly. We don't have spaces that are that make you feel safe or not. I mean, non-judgmental spaces. The word is used like non-judgmental space. It's very difficult to find spaces like this to be able to talk about sexuality and gender and power dynamics, and whether it's in organizations, whether it is domestic spaces. So it's a tough thing to get out of your cupboard and put it out on the table. Having said that, when you keep closeting things, when you keep not talking about it, to maintain a climate of civility, what it does is it leaves a very different taste in the mouth. So it's like you're not talking about it, but it's there. So it's like a hair in your mouth. You cannot see where the hair is, and you're constantly, kuch to hai, and you're feeling restless. You cannot see the strand, and you cannot, pick it up and throw it out. And it's constantly, it's uncomfortable. It's distressing you, but you don't know what to do about it.
An invisible hair in the mouth.
It's invisible because it's so thin, but it's so much there, and you don't know what to do, and you keep looking at others, and So for me, I think this kind of the issue to talk about, just to bring it on the table, just to bring it up through a book, to start talking to it with leaders of organizations, managers of organizations, and to bring it up on, if we are having coordination meetings and review meetings where we talk about outputs and targets achieved. Let's also talk about, where in this organization have we felt that there has been inclusivity, where there has been diversity in its spirit, and not only through the SOPs. Where has there been an engagement with feeling unsafe, feeling coerced? So those kinds of issues, to be able to talk about it, I think that's one of the endeavors through this book.
The phenomenon of men and women working in organizations where roles are very fluid and not broken into bosses are men and secretaries are women, and and that kind of transition will create anxieties about, therefore, who am I as a man and who am I as a woman, right? That socially we see that all the time, domestically we see that all the time. In the last 50 years, women's social roles and psychological roles have expanded enormously. They become providers. Providers used to be a role ascribed to men before. Women say that we don't need protection anymore. We don't need male protection anymore. There should be countries, laws, policies, structures, etc. to grant me safety. I don't need a man to protect me. So the men's roles are not protected either. So many organizations are today talking about, particularly in the social sector, we need to construct a new masculinity. It's almost like masculinity is some kind of a object that you're going to try and construct. And nobody is really engaging with the men. 80% of the workforce in India and globally as well is largely male, right? And what will it mean for men what are their anxieties, what are their fears, how do they deal with their gender distinctiveness? For example, you're working with, like I said, if I'm working with a woman or if I'm working with another man, how do I deal with feelings of attraction, of repulsion, of fear, of anxieties? If these things are not going to be talked about, gender inclusion policies and sexual harassment policies are just going to remain policies on paper. The entire thing around gender diversity and sexuality will only trigger when somebody files a complaint. So the entire lens is going to be get restricted to looking at sexuality from the lens of violence. We aspire, the entire argument for diversity is that it will create dynamic organizations. It will create multiplicity in organizations, right? Which is what the market needs today, right? And if you're not going to address this, diversity will only remain what we call demographic diversity. To satisfy certain statutory requirements, you will take people who are men or women or transgender or Dalit or Brahmins or whatever it is, and you're going to say, we are a diverse organizations. But no, because your essentially ways of looking at things, what is justice, what is fair, what is a transgression or what is not, is going to be dominated by the 80% of the male perspective, right? So if you do not engage, and our proposition to organizations is that in this transition, in looking at this transitional patriarchy and the anxieties therein and so on and so forth, we are hoping that the book will try and break the triad of this victim, perpetrator and the judge only to look at sexuality and look at it from a far more holistic point of view. When you uncover and unrepress, it leads to evolution. It helps organization systems move to the next level of evolution. It creates greater trust. It creates more dynamicity. It creates more play, experimentation, and so on and so forth.